Hey there! Welcome to Leathercraft with Kay Orton. I've been doing leathercraft most of my life. I learned leathercraft in 4-H when I was a kid. I've been a leathercraft leader for about 45 years now. I continue to learn leathercraft all the time through the Colorado Saddle Makers Association, where we have workshops and seminars that help teach us each year. You learn leathercraft from everybody that teaches you. Everyone does it a little bit different, and that's okay. Listen to everyone, how they teach you, and then use those techniques that work the best for you. There are a lot of tools around. Use the tools that you have, learn what you like, and then when you buy new tools, buy the tool that makes the impression that you want, and make sure it's a good quality tool so you're not wasting your time. I hope you enjoy leathercraft. And now I think it's time for us to get started. Today we're going to learn how to case our leather. Casing your leather means getting it damp so that we can get it ready to put a design on. Leather needs to be damp in order for a design to show. When you dampen the leather, it softens the leather and makes it possible for the design to show up. A little bit later I'll give a little example of this and it'll help you understand. First we're going to learn how to dampen leather with a sponge. Dampening leather is called casing it. So if I say casing it, then you'll know. Now I have some water in this little bowl and a sponge. So take your sponge and squeeze out enough to where your sponge can stand right here and not drip. That way you don't drip it all over when you're getting ready to dampen your leather. So we're going to then brush this across the leather. You can tell that it's dampening the leather down and getting it darker. It turns darker when it's damper. Okay. And so, see, you can see the difference now. We're going to also get a little bit more water, squeeze it out a little to where it doesn't drip, and then brush it across here. If you take too much water out, then you have to press too hard and squeeze the water out of it, and it doesn't go on smooth. So if you use this technique of just dipping it in, squeezing it out a little where it doesn't drip, and then use it. So a piece of leather about this thick, this is kind of medium thickness of leather, takes a little more water than if it were really thin. And then really thick leather might take even more water. So now you can see, we can tell the difference of dry leather and damp leather. Okay, we can also feel the difference when this leather, as we go to bend it, it bends easy, and you can see that it's much more flexible. This leather that's dry, see how it holds its body still and doesn't bend as easily and bounces back a little more easily. Plus it's warm when you feel it, like right now my fingers are feeling it, and it's warm. As opposed to after we've put water on this is cooling off, and so it feels kind of cool. Sometimes I use the back of my hand because it feels a little bit better, and it will feel cool. So when it gets about to this color and it's cool, then you kind of know you got it's about right. Now we wouldn't want to put a ton more on there. but we're going to put just a little bit more because it's going to continue to sink into the middle. And so we're going to give it one more drink of water here, like so. Okay, then we're going to put it into a Ziploc bag, sandwich bag. And the reason we do that is that being plastic, it'll hold all the air out, and so it won't dry out, but it will kind of sweat it and help it to soak throughout the leather, and that's what we need to do in order to have our leather just right to work with. I'm going to set this aside, and I'm going to show you another way to dampen your leather. If you have a spray bottle, I use this Tandy leather spray bottle, works pretty good, but just hold your bottle about 10 inches away and spray it. You can see how this one sprays little tiny drops. Some spray bottles spray bigger drops. Don't spray it if you have paper or something around it. It's gonna have a oversplash. So spray it and kind of dampen down the front, like so. And you can see it more slowly. This soaks in sometimes. If you get a little pool, just take your finger and spread that pool to where it doesn't make a spot from it pooling up like that. Now we're going to turn it over. We're going to do the same thing on the back. Now you might not want to dampen the back of a really thin piece of leather because it might be too much water. This piece is a little thicker, so we can go ahead and do that. Okay, and then I'm going to give it, just remember how we put just a little extra water before we put it into the plastic before with the sponge. Where I'm going to do the same thing here with the spray. I'm just going to give it one more spray here, and we're going to let this then soak in, and I'll put it in here with this other one in the plastic. Now, did you notice that it looks like somebody's been in the bathtub splashing water all over this marble, huh? Well, they haven't, but it will, when you're spraying it like that, it will oversplash. So just take a paper towel or something and clean up after yourself a little bit to get that out of there. Okay? Okay, I wanted to show you why we use water to dampen down our leather and make it softer. I've got a little piece of leather here, and did you notice this one's kind of got some scrapes on it and this and that, and it's leather that we call it scrap leather. It's a piece that's not really usable for a good project, but we can still practice on it. So we're going to use it to practice on a little bit. I wanted to show you, this is a dry piece of leather, so it's you can tell that it's dry. It's not cool feeling. It's pretty slick, and when you feel it like this, it's kind of stiffer and it doesn't bend easy. So we really know that this is not damp. This is dry. Okay. Now, in order to make a design on a leather, you have to be able to squish it into the top side of the leather. And so I have a camouflage tool here, and I'm going to put the part that has the decoration, the head of the tool, onto this piece of leather, and I'm going to use this mallet here, and I'm going to hit it pretty hard. Okay, in fact, I think I'll hit it a couple of times. Okay, and you can see that it made a little bit of a design. Okay, but not too much of one. Let's use one more tool here. Let's use a veiner, and we'll do the same thing. We're going to hit it twice, so we can get a design, because I was hitting pretty hard, but it wasn't real easy. Okay, then we're going to take this sponge here, and right over here, I'm going to dampen this down a little bit. Now we're dampening it, and we're going to go ahead and do some tooling on it right away, because we want to figure this out, or do this design here. Normally you'd let it sit in a plastic bag for a while. In fact, overnight is even better, to leave it sit there overnight than to do it right away. But this'll show us what we need to right away even. So okay, I have my camouflage tool again. Okay, we're gonna hold it right here and we hit it twice. Look at the difference of how it hits. We'll do that even just with one hit. And look at the difference at how it was able to go in and make a design. We'll try out this veiner again too. We're just going to hit it once. And wow, look at that. It has, you know, much more depth. We'll do this one twice and see way more depth. In fact, it's probably a little too deep for what we would want to do by hitting it twice. That's one thing we're going to learn about is how to get a uniform hit so that it's the same depth all the time, your tool mark. Okay, so now you know why we have to get it damp. It softens up those fibers in your leather and makes it to where we can make a design in it. And actually these designs, in a sort of a way, are just a bruise that goes on the leather. You know how if you whack your hand and hurt yourself, it bruises it. Well, we're kind of bruising this leather, and that darkens this area here where the design goes. And that's kind of the whole idea of making a design on leather, is that it goes down into the leather and makes it kind of a bruise, and then you get your design. So it's a design with a bunch of bruises. Okay, you've probably noticed this piece of marble, slab of marble or granite or something. Sometimes we call it a rock. It's here, and it's a really hard surface. That makes a good surface to put under your leather to tool on. Now, you saw how much better this tooling was with the leather being damp than this where it's dry, and we were using the marble. Let me show you what happens if you just do it on the table. Say, for example, you forgot to put your marble out. That happens too, lots. So we're going to do this same experiment we did here and here with this piece of marble moved over where you can't, where it's out of the way. We're going to do it just on the table here where it's dry. Wow, it's noisy too, huh? Notice it didn't even do as good a job as that one did. And then let's do our camouflage tool also. Okay, we did one right here. Okay. And it didn't do as good a job either. In fact, it almost looks like it kind of bounced a little bit. So let's try it with the leather being damp, but no marble under it, or no rock. Okay. It made a mark, but not nearly as nice of a mark, and it didn't get very deep. So, and then here we go with one of these. Okay, there again. It did a little better than here where it's dry, but it didn't do nearly as good as it did with it on the marble. Okay, so we'll bring this over here and do one of these right beside it with the marble. It's a lot less noisy too, huh? So it does a lot nicer job. We'll try this one too. Yeah, and it doesn't bounce as much. I don't know if you noticed it, but it bounced quite a bit. Let's try it on the dry. See, it almost looks fuzzy, like maybe it bounced a little bit. on that dry too. Dry is just not as good as damp, is it? Yeah. So, always use marble under your leather when you're stamping on it, and also have it damp and cased well. The better you case it, the better your whole project is going to be. Now we are going to go, I'll set this aside, and we're going to go ahead and talk about starting using some tools. Okay, and we're going to use stamping tools today. These are the pieces of leather. Remember, we dampened a little while ago, and so I took one of them out of the bag, and so I'm feeling it, and you know, I'm feeling it here. It's still pretty soft. It feels cool, and it looks like it's pretty much ready to tool on. I'm going to give it one more little squirt, okay, just to kind of touch it up a little. Okay. Now we're going to use some of these stamping tools here to make a design. In order to make a good design, you kind of have to do some measuring and marking, or else it doesn't always come out very right. So I'm going to take care of this water that I got all over everything. Now, I have here, these are called wing dividers, and you can make this go wider or narrower, and it will make a little edge on your, you can use it to mark an edge. Now we're going to mark a little border edge about this far. We're going to mark it really lightly. Do you see how I'm just going along that edge and marking it really lightly? Okay. Now, if you didn't have one of these, that's okay, because you could mark it with a ruler. Okay. I'm going, just so that it goes a little quicker, I'm going to use this one, and then we're going to take a ruler, and now I didn't press very hard, so you can barely see the line. It just needs to be a guideline, not really a deep line, just a guideline to guide you. And now I have a ruler, and we want to put a line right down the middle. Okay, so this is almost an inch and a half. It's an inch and 3/8 actually. So I mean 3 3/8 inch. So we're gonna go, let me see, it would be just we might be off the middle just a little bit, but half of 3 1/2 is an inch and a half plus a quarter of an inch, and then we're going to go back an 1/8 of an inch. So we're going to go 1 5/8 inch. We're going to make a little mark so that we can get a straight line there. Okay, you see the little marks? And remember, we're keeping it really light because we don't want this to show later, but we do need that in order to get our little design done. You can experiment on a piece of scrap leather and get a design done, figured out, and then put it on your good leather. Always experiment a little bit. You know, I'm not sure that this is quite right, so that's, I guess it's right. It might be off a little. Oh well, we're just playing with it. So make sure it's right though. This side to me looks a little longer than this side. But okay, so today the design that we're going to do is we're going to start with a border design. And you know how when you have a picture, you put a picture in a frame, and so the frame goes around it? We're going to talk a lot about framing our work. In other words, kind of making a frame around it, especially in this, when we're making creative stamping, it's good to have a frame around your work. So we're going to put a frame around it, and we're going to go all the way around it. Okay, so since we have 4 corners on this, the first thing you want to do is you will want to, I'm going to do this so you can see it a little better. So put this right in the corner. You see right there how we touch each of those lines, trying to get it the same distance on each of the corners. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing over here. So we be real careful where we set it. We hold the tool about right there. I'm hitting this twice, but it's really better if you can get it down to 1 hit. That way you don't take the chance of your tool jumping. Okay, so we're just going to start hitting it 1 good whack. Actually, I hit it harder there than I did there, huh? So if you hit it the same kind of a whack each time, then your design will look more uniform and look nicer. Okay, so now we know that each of our corners is going to look the same because we're going to do those first. And then we're going to go along and put this right beside each other. Okay, so we can position your work to where you can see what you're lining up with. Like I'm going to put this right in the corner. I'm turning this so you can see it. We're going to put it right in that corner and then right on the line. Okay, because I can see pretty good this way, and that way you can see too. You see how now we're going to put this right in that corner, right on the line. And it's starting to make a border. We're going to, okay. Okay, I'm going to go along this bottom. I can see better that here, and it'll go a little faster if I hold the tool straight up and down. And you remember, we didn't talk about this beforehand, but on tools, there's the decorative end, and then there's the end that you use your mallet on. And always make sure that you have those correct, because you don't want to be hitting on the end that is got the decoration on. Now I'm right here, and I'm going, okay, I have this much space. How many of these can I fit in here to and have it come out just right? Okay, so if I went there to there, there to there, and there to there, it's almost too hard to get 3 in, but it's too big for 2. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to crowd them just a little. So normally we would come in here and put this right in here. We're going to put it to that edge of it and crowd it just a little, but it still looks okay, but we're crowded it a little. Okay, and then actually then we're going to do the same here and hopefully leave just enough space to fit that other one in there. Okay, and voila, it did good. All right, now it might have been good if I had thought about this right back here and then kind of checked it out, and I wouldn't have had to squeeze just 3 of them together. I could have just tightened them all up and it would have been fine. Okay, now we're going to do another thing to this design. We're going to use what we call a pear shader, and this is just kind of fun to put all along here. And so we're going to be putting this right here, and it's going to kind of go right off of the leather in a sort of a way. Do you see what we're doing? And the important thing is, see this little ring here? You want to put that piece of, or that tool right the same each time, and it needs to be pointed straight out from there. Remember how I was saying, if you find a hit that makes a nice impression, just keep using that hit all along there. Okay, so we're just gonna keep going here. See how we try to keep that little edge about the same. I'm just getting kind of lucky there, it looks like, because they look pretty much the same. And did you notice how we're also getting rid of the line that kind of, I wasn't paying good attention there, was I? We're kind of getting rid of the line, but you can see it a little tiny bit. So another way you can get rid of that line a little bit is after you've used it, very lightly, just kind of go like this to kind of get rid of that line. Kind of scrape this across here to get rid of it so that it doesn't show up. You don't need it anymore. You mostly just needed it to get these all straight. Okay, so we're gonna go another one. You always need to have it setting where you can see really good in there, and hit it just where you want. Get it placed where you want it, and then hit it where you want it. Okay? Now, we also need to decide what to do on the corners, and I think we'll do the same thing. We'll just we can place this here. Make sure this is pointing right at that corner, and then we want to do each corner the same way. Okay, so we'll do this corner the same way. Make sure it's pointing at the corner, or else it kind of won't look quite right. Okay. All right. Now, here in a minute, we'll go ahead and finish those up. But right now, we're going to start doing something here on this middle line. And what we're going to use on the middle line is this veiner. You know, we were playing with it a little while ago. And so on this veiner, we're going to start, see how this line goes right into that point? We're going to start right there. And we want to put this on the line, right at that point, and this on the line. Okay? And then we're going to hit it. You need to hold your mallet about right here. Up here is too close. Clear back here is too far. But if you hold it kind of right here, this is a good place. And holding your tools, sometimes you need to have your fingers up here when you set it down, and sometimes, but then hold it about right here in the middle to lower side. But don't hold it down here because you can't see what you're doing, right? You got your fingers in the way. So hold them about right there. Hold on really tight. And we're going to try to do this with just one hit. And see how we're trying to put this right in that little point. Okay? And there, right in there. Always turn your leather so that you can see what you're doing. Like, I wouldn't want to do this for me here because I can't really see where these points are over here. So I need to turn it here where I can see it, or even here where I can see it. This is probably the easiest, but I think for you to see it, right here is good, and I can see it too. Okay, now, just like over here, in order to see if we're going to come out right, let's take this and just make some little marks here and see how we are. And see, this kind of goes clear over there. So we're going to kind of tighten that up a little. And normally we'd touch it here. We're going to touch on the other side of that. Let's see if we can center it a little bit. And same here. We're going to kind of come over here just a little bit that way. Okay, and we hope that well, we're going to be pretty close, but we can make it work. Because we're going to do some other things on here too. So, but if you were going to only do this, you would want to make your marks according to how your tools fit. You'd have to do some experimenting. Now I'm going to turn this, and then I'm going to go like this. From here. Do you see how I'm touching this one there and that one right there? And it's important that you pay attention and get them just how you want them. And now we're making kind of another little design just by, so that point goes to there, that point goes to there. And we're making ourselves a little design. You can make all kinds of designs with just a few tools. We're going to make several designs just with the few tools we're going to have. The tools we're using here today are called the 7 basic tools, and actually we're just using mostly 5 of them. But so it doesn't take a lot of tools to make some pretty cool little designs. This kind of helps you learn to get your tools put right where you want it. Okay, so now we got it. I still think it looks a little crooked, but oh well. Okay, we got that there. Now the next thing we're going to do to this, we're going to add one more thing to it, is we're going to use a seeder, which makes a little round dot kind of seed thing, and then when carving patterns it might be the seeds in a flower. But we're going to try to put this dot right here in between, right in the middle. Okay, now tools that are little like this, you don't have to hit as hard. You notice I hit that one kind of hard, and it's pretty deep, so I'm not thinking I want to hit it quite that hard. You don't have to hit as hard as you do with a bigger tool. So see, I need to look then at this area and this area and try to have this right in the middle. Okay, it still got pretty deep, so we're gonna have to lighten up a little bit before you do a final. That looks pretty good, right? Okay, so we're gonna do, and here we have little dots all along here, and you want to make really sure that they're where you want them to be. And if they're not absolutely perfect, it's not a real big deal, but you want to have them as perfect as you can get them. Okay, we're going to try another tool. This tool is called a background tool that we're going to use. Okay, and just for fun, what we're going to do with this tool is we're going to put this tool is kind of shaped with a wider end down here and then pointed at the other end, and we're going to put the point right here in the middle, right above where that little dot we made was. Okay, do you see there? That's the design it makes. And then we're going to just keep doing that. We're going to, and have it go straight out. Don't get it crooked. Try to have it going straight out, right on the other side of that little dot. Okay. And mine aren't perfect, but so you have to be careful and try to get them going straight out, because sometimes, like that one, is tipping just a little bit. Okay, one more. There we go. That's one side. and then we'll show the next step, and then we'll catch some of those other steps up later. The next thing we want to do is that we're going to go back to the veiner, okay? And we're going to go from this point with that backgrounder to that point and make a little thing right over to it, and do the same here to here. It's making kind of a cool design. Okay. I'm being really careful to hold those right in the middle of there so that they get even. All right. And then we could go ahead and keep doing different things on out there to fill up our space. How about let's try another veiner design and just go from center to center of there. Okay, we're being real careful to get them in the right place. It's better to take your time and get it right where you want it. Sometimes I say this, that the slower you do things and the more careful you go, it actually makes the project go faster because you don't have to go back and redo it. Let's make another one that way. I think that'd look kind of cool. We'll just do a little bit more to add to that design. So when you're doing stamping, sometimes if you want to try out new designs and stuff, get a piece of scrap leather and try out that design on it, and then you don't waste a good piece of leather that you can use as a scrap piece. I guess I could turn this where you can see it better. Maybe my hand's still in the way. I think we'll just wait like that, because when we finish this design around here, it's going to come cover it up that area. Okay, and then I'll go ahead and finish up the rest of it and show it to you when I get it done. Okay. So I went ahead and finished up the rest of those so we could see what it looked like finished. And I'm thinking it might be fun to put something in each of these corners, might it? So what we're going to do is we're going to make us a little guideline. Okay, we're going to take the ruler very carefully, put it from corner to corner. Okay. And then we're going to make a little tiny line right here, really soft. Okay. And then we're going to do the same thing over here. Why do you think we do that? Probably so that we can keep it straight. Otherwise we might not get it straight enough. Okay. It might. I think I was crooked at the very beginning, so it's not exactly perfectly straight, but it'll work. So we have a little tiny guideline here and here, here and here. So let's take that veiner, the veiner that we had used, and why don't we we're going to do like this. And then we'll turn it around and do like this and make kind of a little diamond shape just like we made here in the center. Okay? But we're going to center it. So we need to make sure that there's about the same amount of space right over here. That same amount of space there. as there is here. That's called centering it. So we're trying to get it into the center. Okay, so I think that's centered pretty good, and so we'll hit that. Okay, and then we're going to turn it to where we can see what we're doing here, and we're going to touch that right at that point and touch that right at that point, and now you have to be really careful about hitting it again, but I didn't hit it quite hard enough, and so we're gonna kind of see if we can re-stamp it. So you have to make sure you get it exactly on and then hit it. We got lucky that time. It doesn't always work to re-stamp things, so it's good to get it done the first time. So we're going to do this here, and I think because we were off in the beginning, I'm going to pull this a little bit this way because it seems like it's a little off there. Okay, we'll turn that so we can see where our points are. See how you take special time, hold it down tight, and hit it. That way you can get it right in there. Now this one doesn't seem to be centered either, so we're going to do the same thing here. Remember, we're going to try to get it in the center of that space. We're going to move it a little that way. So measuring is real important, as you can see. I didn't measure as good as I should have, and you can see what happened. So measure good. See how that kind of filled up the space in the middle there? Or in those little corners? And looks kind of cool to finish off a space. Remember how we were talking about this was going to form a frame around it, and this kind of does too. It frames it. Now this design is what we call a symmetrical design, meaning that this side is the same as this side. So when they're symmetrical, you do the same thing on both sides. Okay. So I thought it might be kind of fun to put some seeds in here. One right in the middle there, and then how about if we put one right in the middle here, and right in the middle here. Makes it look a little different, huh? We can do anything we want, so we just have to kind of be careful, space them, experiment before we do our one that we want for good. It's always important to do a little experimenting on a piece of scrap. Whoop. Now I'm fitting it exactly back over it to hit it a little harder so that they're more the same. Start with like the middle one here, you know, because that one you can kind of tell if you've got it in the middle or not. Then it's easier to do the other two. Okay. How's that look? Okay, so we only used 4 tools on this this particular 5 tools, I guess. We used a seeder and a background tool, a veiner, a camouflage tool, and a pear shader. These are basically the same tools you use too to get started on a carving design. So we made a stamping design out of this, and later we'll use it for a carving design. All right. So I took this piece of leather out of the plastic bag, and it looks like and feels like it needs just a little bit more water for us to go forward. It's absorbed all the water that we put on earlier, and now it feels like it could use just a little more water. So we're going to give it just a little more drink of water here. Sometimes the middle stays damp and the edges are drier, so sometimes then you need to kind of do it around the edges. They dry out faster because they're open to more air, and so the center usually doesn't dry out so quick. Okay, we're going to make a little flower with a camouflage tool. It's kind of a cute little thing. So there's all sorts of things you can make with these basic tools, and so we're going to show you how on here. Okay, so we're going to start right here and make a like so, and then we're going to just move this, keep the point here together, and move this like that, kind of making a little windmill effect. And we'll do the same thing again. Okay, are you seeing that little windmill thing going on? And then here's another one right here. Okay, so there's that little flower all by itself, and then you can add on to that little flower and make so if we put an impression like right on the scent, see there's this little thing, put it right up here on the middle of that, right there. Okay, on each one of those, come in and just put one right on the very top of it. And so this one will go right here. It's starting to look like a blob now, huh? Well, it looks like a blob for a few minutes. And then it'll come to shape again. Okay? And then we got one more here, because there's 4 of them, right? Okay, it kind of it looks a little more like a blob, but it's starting to look a little more like a flower. And then you come in here and you put this point right into there and this point right into here, like so. Okay, and you're going to want to hit those plenty hard so that they make an impression. And then over here, see there's this little space here. We're going to put that right into there. Hold it in there real tight. And we're putting these in pretty deep so that because they need to. Okay, and then right here. And then one more right here. Okay, you see the little flowers inside of there, kind of. And then we'll put a little round dot right in the center. There you go. So you got your little flower. Now I think a person could probably come out here and hit these just a little bit more. Stay away from that little flower that you made, and see how we're kind of making this rounder. And that just kind of makes a little frame around it. Remember how we talked about a frame earlier? Everywhere where it kind of comes in, that's where we're smashing it a little. Okay? Right in there. Now, see, you got a little flower. Shall we do that again? Okay. So we're going to start right here. Okay. Then we're going to kind of go right here. Like this. And we're going to go right here like this. And it's kind of making a little windmill. And actually you could make a little flower just like that and leave it be kind of a little windmill if you wanted to. You see how it has these three little chung 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 chung. Okay, then we come in and we put it right on the top. Right up on top of the, can you see that? See how this is round here, and then we're going to put it right there. Okay, we'll turn this. See how we have this here like this, and then we're going to go right on the top of it. Like so. And this is when it starts not looking like anything that we know of. Let me see. We go right here, right over the top of that, right around the center kind of. And one more right here. Okay, then how it has all these little indents right here, you're going to come right over here. We come down right where this line is and this line is and stick that right there. Okay, and that kind of makes the outline of this flower. Right there and right there. It's kind of making little petals on that flower. I'm hitting it twice because it doesn't show up very good if you just hit it a little bit. You have to get it pretty deep, is what I've found. Awesome. That looks a little more like a flower. And then we're going to put this little seed right in the center. See there? I didn't hit it as hard. I think we probably need to go a little harder. Cool. Okay, remember this one we did a little more around it. So this one's going to be just a little different that way. Okay, we'll get another flower figured out. Shall we try making a frog with our tools that we've been using this morning? How about we make this little frog right here? Okay, so it looks like we start with a camouflage tool, and we're going to have his eyes up here. So we make one eye right here like this. That's right there. And then one eye, or same eye, I guess, just kind of make his eye. So we got one eye right there. And then we have to get another eye right close to it. And we make it go like this. Probably not perfect. This is one of those things you need to do a couple of times to get it to look right. Okay, and then we're going to make him some fat cheeks. And it looks like right here. That's his cheek. And we've got to make a cheek over here too. So there. And then there's a right across here. I don't think we made his cheeks quite big enough, but this goes across here like this is kind of his nose. And we put a little dot in each of these. He looks kind of sad now, and I guess it looks like we turn this over and make a chin for him right here. And then it looks like we're gonna make him a mouth right here. We're just gonna draw him in a mouth there. Okay, then with this veiner, it looks like it comes right here off of his chin down here. There's one and another one. It looks like we got to do the same thing on the other side. Okay, we've got those two. Now we need to make some legs up here. So it looks like we go up like this and make his knee. Do you see? Then we go over like this, and that's how his knee will go. We'll put one on both sides. There we go. And the bottom of his body will go right here. See right there. Then these must be his legs. Looks like there's 3 of them there. Okay, and then we use looks like we use the backgrounder to make some little marks right here that must be part of his legs or toenails or something. Okay. And it looks like, because these must be webbed feet, so it looks like they've put a little camouflage in between each of these. I don't know if that looks right, but to make it look like his webbed feet. Does he look like a frog? It looks like they've drawn in a little up here on that leg and on this leg. Does he look like a frog? Kinda does. All right. Now this looks like kind of a fun flower. Let's make one of those. So we put a dot in the middle, and then we use the backgrounder and go all the way around the dot. And it looks like the dot, you come really close to it. So yeah, like so. And then however far apart you want the petals. And you just keep going around. And this you should turn to where you can see where you are so that you can get the petals in the right place. I kind of got that in high, didn't I? You'll do a better job on it. Looks like a half a flower. So you could put more distance in between them or less, depending on what kind of flower you wanted. So if you're making a project with a flower on it made this way, the best thing to do would be to practice on a piece of scrap a few times and until you kind of got that down. And then you can take your tool here and we'll make us a stem and make some leaves. Now those leaves, it could be that you could use an edge of your veiner if you wanted to and make the part of them like that. Should we put 3? There. How about that? Okay, one more little flower. I want to try this one. And it looks like you use this camouflage tool and you go around. So we're going to start right here. And just keep putting it beside each other. Okay, and then our pear shader, it looks like we could make a little tiny pear shade. You're going to have to kind of tilt it like this into each one of those little round parts. Well, mine doesn't look like that one, but it does look kind of cool. Let's fix this one a little bit. There we go. And then we put a seed in the middle. There we go. And then they made some little cuts into the seed, or not cuts, but lines to make it look like a little flower there. Huh. Well, cool. Well, that worked. Okay, so we have some goofy little things to play with.